Hello, Internet. I am Taylor. This is the Cranky Comic Book Review Show. I don't even know how I got that name. I'm not cranky. I'm kind-hearted and pleasant and always sunny. Anyways, whatever. It's May 11th. It's 2022. I review comics. I go from the worst to the best. We got a pile this week. Not a lot of DC, not a lot of Marvel, mostly indie, which, I don't know, take that for what it's worth. I've kind of been sick of a lot of Marvel and a lot of indie stuff, or a lot of DC stuff. So, it is what it is. I've got a barking dog in the background. Got somebody mowing their lawn outside because they don't know it's no mow May. I live in the suburbs, and you have to have a pristine lawn. Can't save the planet, people. That just takes too much time, and then your neighbors might talk bad about you. So, anyways, I apologize for all the background noise, all that stuff. I'm recording this right after I read these books, so these are my first initial impressions. Take them for what they're worth. And yeah, let's get into it. All right. The worst book of the week, sadly, with one of my favorite paintings from Frank Frazetta, who pretty much just drew this kind of shit. And a lot of naked women. Mostly naked women, anyways. Yeah. This is a comic based on the Death Dealer painting. Approved by the heirs of the Frazetta estate, the Frazetta girls, which is how they're labeled in the credits in here. Oh, I wanted to like this. I wanted to like the idea of Death Dealer. I wanted to like the plot, the fantasy world, everything else, because I think this really is a cool painting. I mean, it's just cool. It's like heavy metal. It's just reminds me of wasted youth and kind of shitty concerts. But instead, oh, this is a bad comic book. It is not drawn very well. The plot is stupid, and I don't give a crap about the story. It's trying to play with like fantasy tropes a little bit, and like the Death Dealer has some cursed helmet on, and whatever. It's just at best it's middle of the road. At best, it doesn't. The art doesn't really even seem to fit the fantasy style in here. It's not up to the level of Frank Frazetta by any means. I didn't expect that to be the case. All right, actually, hang on. I misspoke. I did not expect the art to live up to Frazetta is what I meant. Sorry, just to clarify. But it really doesn't. And then the story, I mean, there's not much of one. If you want a better version of like a fantasy book with a talking kind of magical artifact, go and read Barbaric. It's much better than this. This is just a disappointment. Honestly, it just kind of wounds my heart. But I love the cover. All right, next. Speaking of wounding my heart, but loving the cover. Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. #1 with the Bill Sienkiewicz cover. I love this cover. This is like Marvel's thing. It's a black and white book with red, so it's edgy, and it's stories that are out of continuity, and like you get to tell wacky ass character stories about Moon Knight in this case. They've done Carnage, they've done I think Deadpool, they've done Wolverine, they've done all this crap, and they're a mixed bag. And this is a mixed bag. The first story by Hickman, which is the one and Chris Bacalo, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. I was looking forward to the most because like I generally like Hickman's writing, even though he tends to throw a shitload of charts in there for some damn reason, and I like Chris Bacalo's art. But the art is muddy. It's unclear. The coloring, it doesn't do any. The red coloring, there's not like fully covered. It's not good. Like there's just not much to it, and like what there is, it's just not interesting. And then, and muddy. Like there's panels where like, what in the goddamn hell is going on here? It's like, yeah, just kind of bad, honestly. And then the middle story by Guggenheim and Fornes is the most fun of the bunch. It's Moon Knight and Spider-Man, and like it's a fun interplay. It's harmless. It's not going to change the world. It's not anything, groundbreaking or anything like that. And then there's the final story by Iodele and Abed Doughton, which does not make a whole lot of sense at first. They're trying something really. Like, I know when they sat down to do this, they're like, oh my God, this is so clever. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. I don't want to give away what they're doing with it. And it has the potential to be a clever enough idea. But in order to pull what they try to do off, it would take amazing execution. And that is not there. it falls flat because like you read it and you're like, oh, that makes no fucking sense, and then you're like, oh, and then you go back and you're like, oh, and the O's help, and it's sort of like, oh, okay, but it doesn't, it just didn't, like the gimmick, and it is a gimmick, did not work for me. It really just kind of bugged me. Like this book bugged me. I was expecting more out of this because I'm biased, and I should know better. It's fucking Marvel. Like they just do shit to make a buck, and like they tend not to give a rat's ass in a lot of ways, especially about the comics. I know it's me being jaded and possibly cranky. Maybe there's a damn reason I have the name, but fuck. All right. Speaking of stupid Marvel shit, actually this should be below this. I had these in the wrong order because this one really is bad. Banner of War, dun dun dun. Hulk versus Thor. Banner of War Alpha Part 1. This is Donny Cates thinking he's like very clever or trolling the audience or both. It is stupid. And like the reason for the fight is stupid. They're setting up, Cates is setting up a Hulk versus Thor fight. That's it. And like they fight this issue, and that's it. There's a couple. There's like one moment where you're like, it's kind of clever, but the rest of this is just fucking irritating. And I apologize for all the swearing. I know YouTube doesn't like it when you swear in the first minutes. I'm trying to at least wait till 60 seconds before I unleash the f bombs. Doesn't always work. Because the nature of how I review things. I should start with the best books, and then I'll lose swearing at the end of the video, and you can whatever. It's not a good book. Like the motivations behind any of this are nuts. Like Thor is sad, so he wants to fight. Banner is in charge of Hulk, so he wants to be left alone, but then he wants to fight. And then like the engine room dumbass crap that's going on in Hulk is the stupidest idea I think I've ever read in a mainstream comic. And that's saying something, because I've read a few 90s books, but this is really bad. And then the Thor thing, like the motivations don't make sense. The fight, it's like, all right, whatever. And then it's turning into like a 4-part, 5-part nonsense series. Stop it! It's Cates' Starvation, and you're going to hear that again later in the review. But like the other one's better. But this is just Donny Cates, the bad boy of comics, writing bad fucking comics. Namaste. All right, Blind Alley, number 1, Behemoth Press. This is written, drawn, colored, and lettered by Ira. Not sure how you pronounce it. I don't want to be too hard on this book because of that. I mean, it's a Herculean effort to do all of this on your own, and I respect it. And there are parts of this book I actually like. I like the art, and I actually didn't even mind the general sort of kind of slice of life story. It takes place in like this aftermath of a deal that might have gone wrong or might have gone right. You're not really sure. And then the main character heads home. And that's kind of it. There's not a lot that happens plot-wise. But like the plot that does happen, it's kind of like the setting foot in a familiar neighborhood and returning home. And I get that that's kind of the effect that they were going for. And that is nice. And the art itself. I enjoyed the art. I liked the color palette that they chose. And I thought that worked. What didn't work is that not much happened in here. Like it's a setup issue, but like I don't know what the hell they're setting up. Like I really don't. I don't know where this is going to go. It might read better as a collected volume, but yeah, that was one of the things. And the other thing, the dialogue. It felt weird and stilted, and I could be wrong on this, and I might be. If anyone knows what's going on with this, let me know, and maybe I'm just wrong about it. But it feels like it's translated. And like it feels like something was lost in the translation of it because it just doesn't feel like a natural flowing dialogue, and like it feels like the writer was, and the artist they were trying really hard to have that be like a naturalistic kind of thing, but it just like it was jarring and off-putting to me, and it really didn't capture what I think they were going for in the story. So I wanted this to be higher on the list, and like I said, I respect a lot of this, and I respect the effort put into it. But as a whole, I just don't feel like it worked, and the dialogue is the main reason for that. All right, another one from Behemoth Press, and I don't hate this one either. This is Heavy Metal Drummer number 4. This is where you learn that like what might be going on maybe might be not what you think, and it's interesting enough. And this, I'm almost certain, will read better as a collected volume. It's a very quick read. It's written by Kiefer Findlow and Emiliano Pliskin, and then art by Luca Bassalo. Uh, and like the art is like this wacky underground art that I dug. I love the style of it. I love the kind of characterization and the figures and the action and everything else. I love the art. And the story itself just kind of took like a dip for me this issue. It just wasn't as interesting as the others because it's the least wacky of all the issues. I think like it'll ramp back up next issue. There's indications at the end of this that that's going to be the case, and I'm hoping so. And like if they stick the landing, this could be a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the first 3 issues of this a lot, and this one again, I don't hate it. It's just that felt like a dip to me, so that's kind of why it's on this part of the list. Heavy Metal Drummer, number 4. Okay, Grimm, number 1. Another cool cover and a cool concept. Stephanie Phillips writing and Flaviano on the art. I think that's how you say it. I think they just go by Flaviano, kind of like, Prince. Whatever. Grim Reaper, death. There's a bunch of Grim Reapers. They guide souls to the afterlife. And then something happens to the one Grim Reaper. And that's it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of dialogue in here and kind of explainy bits. And, like, they use the device of, like, Stephanie Phillips uses the device of, like, explaining it to a new soul, what's happening, and then the new soul does something, and explainy bits. It's okay. I will probably pick up the second issue of this, but I wanted more out of this first issue. And there's another one down the line that I probably feel the same way about, and I'll get to that as it goes. I just thought that idea was a little more clever, and there's a little more that happened, so it's further down the list. Not by Stephanie Phillips, but I'm talking ahead of myself. It's decent. Some people will probably like this a whole lot more than I did. It's just, and again, there's not a lot this week that I really truly loathed other than the Banner War and yeah, I really hated Death Dealer, and then the Moon Knight I didn't care for. But this is fine. It does have potential. It's the pacing of it and like the fact that I wanted more to happen in this issue, other than just kind of a setup stuff. And I get it. I get why she wrote it that way, and I get all of that. It just didn't hold my interest enough to like make it higher on the list. So, Grimm, number 1. All right, next, Nocterra. I should just read this as a trade. And that doesn't. It's Scott Snyder. It's Tony Daniel. It's fine. It's good. It's solid. It's been solid from the get-go. I don't think it's been fantastic ever. But I think it's been interesting and fine and like middle of the road, and we're kind of in the middle of the stack, and that's about where I think it's always fallen. It's number 10. It's the lights went out in the world, and there's monsters. That's the big idea, and then people are trying to turn the lights back on or the sun back on or whatever. That part, like, they really don't explain how that happened or what makes sense. And then there's a shifting of alliances and the grand plan, and like it all goes to shit. It's touching on a lot of fun stuff, and it's doing it in a fairly fun way. But other than the world go like the lights out and that bit, there's not a whole lot that's really new in this idea. I mean, again, so if you want like a solid adventure comic, kind of post-apocalyptic, kind of superhero-y, kind of a thriller, you can do worse than Nocterra. But it's just not. And if you like that idea, it'll be great. But otherwise, it's not breaking a whole lot of new ground, and it's middle of the road. All right, this book is dumb as hell, and I liked it. Jurassic League number 1. It's written and by Juan Gedeon and Daniel Warren Johnson. Cover by Daniel Warren Johnson. I thought Daniel Warren Johnson was doing the art, and I kind of wish he was, because I love this cover, and I love Daniel Warren Johnson's art. Instead, it's Juan Gedeon on the art. And that's not bad, but it just doesn't hold quite the sauce that I think it would if it were Johnson doing all of the art on it. And it's a stupid idea. I mean, it's just really dumb. It knows it's dumb, and it's not trying to be anything other than just dumbass fun. Like, this is really, it's what if the Justice League were kind of stupid dinosaurs? Like, that's kind of about it. It's a playful thing. It's violent. It's got some stuff to it. It's also still kind of a setup for the forming of the Jurassic League. But it's not going to change anything. But if you're just looking for a stupid as hell fun comic, this is probably the pick of the week for that. There are better books, so it's not going to make the top of the list by any means. but it's at least fun. And like it kind of reminds me in a ways of like Silver Age DC books where they are not necessarily great, but they are fun. And this is like it's okay for comics just to be fun sometimes. And I forget that. I kind of sometimes expect comics to be great literature, grand, and change the world. And I realizing the more and more of these reviews how rare that bit actually is, and sometimes you just have to let go and like watch a popcorn flick, read a popcorn comic. This is a popcorn comic. So if you're in the mood for a popcorn comic, like a dumb B movie popcorn comic, I'm mixing all this shit into a crappy metaphor, but that's Jurassic League. All right, Case Turbation round 2. The Case Turbation EC of the Case Turbation I can't even say it anymore. Crossover number 13. This is where you learn what's been going on. Kinda. It's been Cates has been kind of letting you know what's going on the whole damn time. He wrote himself into the comic because it's Cates. He's got some self-confessional things in here that are pretty deep if they're real. I don't know. I'm not up on Cates' biography, and this might be just a way, like a therapeutic way of him like expressing some of that, and that is cool. I respect that. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to feel like a true dick about this, but I also kind of feel like he's still trolling the audience a bit with some of it. Or like he's got this like jaded edge to when he's like confessed these things, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you went through some stuff, I get it. What am I supposed to do with it? This book has been weird. It started off as one thing, it's turned into another, and he addresses that in here. Which I think is okay. It's just kind of where this leads and like where it's ending up, where it's going next. I'm like, all right, I guess. I don't. I'm almost done with this one. It is an interesting book and it's well crafted, and like I like it a lot better than some of the others. It's just kind of like it needs to get to a fucking real point, and I hope it does. And I also kind of hope it wraps up soon. I don't think there's a whole lot less for them to do with this. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he'll pull a magic rabbit out of his asshole. That's not where you pull rabbits, but I don't know where you you pull a rabbit out. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, maybe. Cool cover. Decent. I know some people again. I'm guessing like some people are really going to have this very high on their list, and I can see why. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this, and I do actually appreciate the bearing of the soul if it's a legitimate bearing of the soul. But I'm a jaded asshole myself, so I can smell bullshit, and some of that feels like a little bit of bullshit. All right, 7 Secrets, number whatever the hell, 17, the penultimate issue. Second to last for all of you Luddites out there. It's all right. It's good. They're going to have to really tie a lot together to next issue to make it work, or most likely it's going to turn into one giant battle and be done, is kind of what I'm guessing. There's some reveals in here where you're like, how the fuck? Like, there's some explaining left to do, and like it'll probably. Here's what I'm predicting: giant fight, explaining bits, done. I could be wrong next issue, but that's kind of what I'm seeing because it's like they have to like clarify something, and it's been a romp of a ride, ups and downs. I almost dropped this book, and again, last month saved it. This month isn't as good as last month, but it's not bad. It's still like the story's finally getting to a conclusion. It felt lost in the weeds for a long time there, and like this is, again, it's a solid action romp. It's a B+ movie. Tom Taylor, Daniela Nicuolo, and Walter Baiamonte. Sorry. The art actually, the art feels a little rushed in this issue too. It doesn't feel like up to Di Nicuolo's generally pretty high action standards. There's some cool pages in here, but it's just on the whole, it felt a little bit like thick and chunky for them, and it felt a little bit like forced and fast. So you kind of learn that there's the cliffhanger at the end gets resolved in this issue a bit. Not to spoil much, but like there's cliffhangers that get resolved. It's comics. That's how things work. And yeah, it's decent. It's fine plus. All right, this one is this high. Remember when I said earlier I was going to have a book that's kind of high on the list based on the idea alone? I foreshadowed, people. I'm a goddamn natural storyteller. 8 Billion Genies, number 1. Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. This is a what if everyone in the world got a genie and they had 3 wishes. And then that's a giant idea. And what this issue does is shrink it down into small, manageable story. because it's all about these like patrons and or people in a bar, and you learn the reason behind that, and you learn why. And I think that's a fairly smart move on Soul's part, because otherwise, like, you have 8 billion people with genies. What the hell story are you going to tell? And what this does, it's a setup. It kind of reminds me a bit of no, I'm not going to say it because I can't remember the movie, but it's got what's his face, and they're in a bar at the end of the world. Whatever that one is. Shaun of the Dead? Maybe not Shaun of the Dead, one of the other ones like that, by that same. Holy crap, I have no words. I've lost all the words, people. I am done. I give up. I can't speak anymore. I can't think. I'm done. I need a genie to grant me 3 wishes. There's some cool visuals in here. There's some cool conceits and stuff. There's a little bit of dickishness that takes place on the part of one of the characters, and some selfishness and like relationshipy. It is mostly set up. This one, like, I don't know if it's ongoing. I don't know if it's a mini, but it really is going to depend upon where it goes from here. This one, it's hanging on. It's at the edge of a cliff, and it could either be a fun cliff dive or just a tumble down to the rocks. Oh, look, I made it clever again. All right, yeah, I've got 3 left. Buddy Mask, The Hollow Inside #1. You're starting. I'm starting. We're all starting. People that are reading this, at least, they're starting to learn maybe a little bit more what's going on, but not really. It's Paul Tobin, Andre Moody. Moody's art is solid, as always. I reviewed the Free Comic Book Day Bunny Mask, and I like that quite a bit. And I still like Bunny Mask, even though I have no idea what the hell's going on. That gets clarified, sort of, in this issue, in that, like, nobody knows what's going on. And, like, it's acknowledged by sort of the main characters. And like, you know, they realize, like, they don't know what the hell the Bunny Mask is. The audience isn't expected to know then. So, like, the plot is intriguing enough, and what's happening with these characters and what they are doing is interesting enough to keep this going forward. And again, Andre Moody's artwork is gorgeous and does a lot of the heavy lifting in here. And the Bunny Mask is very mysterious as a character and very interesting. And there are several mysteries in this book that you're like, what in the hell? I do hope they start to resolve some stuff, or at least let the audience in a little bit more than they have been. And this is a good start to that, but like, it really feels like at some point you gotta like learn, like you can't just have the entire book be like, keep your audience in the dark. And like, I think they're realizing that, and I think this is a step in the right direction on it. And again, yeah, the Bunny Mask is kind of this like force of nature, maybe, or character, or undead, or zombie, or God. You don't really know. But they punish sinners, or they take away, and it's... Just read it. I can't explain it because I don't understand all of it necessarily. But I am enjoying it. I've been on a panel where we talked about it, and like, no one I know has hated this book that's read it. But also no one really knows what the hell it is about. So take that for what it's worth. Makes it real fun to review. All right, next we have Red Room Trigger Warnings #3 by Ed Piscore. This is another thing where you respect you have to respect the Herculean effort of Ed Piscore. He's done everything in this book. The art, the ink and the letter, and the writing, and like, he's getting better, I think, with each issue. This is one of, like, probably my favorite issue to date, and that's saying something, because Red Room has made the top of my list several times. And like, it's gory, it's bloody, there's violence, there's secrets and murder on the dark web, there's Bitcoin, and like, the first volume was all about actual red rooms, and like, they're rooms where people pay to watch horrible shit, like torture porn, that kind of stuff. This volume, he's branching out a bit, and I think the branching out has really helped. He's telling stories outside of there, and like, he's got a 2-page thing at the end explaining some of the influences to this issue, and that's very cool. It's kind of like a letting you behind the curtain on it in a good way, and it doesn't diminish from the story at all. It just kind of adds to like that's where this is kind of getting pulled from, and that's where this is homage to, and that's why this story is crafted. It's still a clever tale, and it's a very cleverly told tale, and very well drawn, like very creepy, very gory, very... I don't have a lot of negative stuff to say about this. I really don't. I really like it a lot. And yeah, I would love the chance to actually interview Ed at some point. I don't know if that'll ever happen. We'll see. Ed, if you happen to watch this, hit me up, dude. There's a shot in the... That's like farting in a hurricane. It doesn't matter much. But, yeah, I like Red Room a lot. I also... Cartoonist Kayfabe, the channel that Ed Rugg and Jim Rugg and Ed Piscore have, where they dissect a comic every day. Fantastic. So if you're not watching that channel, give it a go. But yeah, this is pretty high up, almost number one. But number one had to be this one. You know that scene in Dumb and Dumber where they trade the Shag and Wagon for a moped, and they're like, "Oh, you went and totally redeemed yourself." I'm butchering that scene, but that's kind of how I feel about this book. Nightmare Country, number two. I did not love the first issue of this. This is set in Sandman universe, and I love the Sandman books. So again, I am biased. It was one of my favorite reads of all time. It's probably in the top 2 or 3 comic books of all time for me, for several reasons. Just the time of my life when I was reading it, the influence it had on things, and then like just the general atmosphere of it. Neil Gaiman's Sandman, I love, and I still do. I think it holds up for the most part. Cautious about it, I don't know if I'm optimistic or pessimistic about I'm not. The new series coming on Netflix, we'll fucking see. But Nightmare Country, I was worried when I found out James Tynion was going to be doing a thing set in this universe. And the first issue, I was like, well, I was right. That's kind of Tynion and kind of crap. Not crap's too strong. It had the atmosphere right. It had some of the characters maybe right. It just didn't feel very cohesive and like didn't tell it. Like didn't seem like it was actually telling a story. It felt like more atmosphere than story, which sometimes is the problem with Tynion, in my humble opinion. He sometimes gets at it where like, oh yeah, great atmosphere, great like horror like vibes, but like the story itself, you're like, oh, that's not great a story. That was issue 1. Issue 2, I really like. You get the Corinthian, who's one of the characters from the original Sandman run, one of the great horror. Just read the original Sandman, whatever. And then you learn why the Corinthian is doing what the Corinthian is doing. It ties into the artist who is also was introduced in issue 1, and like doesn't wrap things up because I thought the first issue was just a one shot that made no goddamn sense. But this, yeah, it's solid. It's nothing this week. Well, maybe Red Room should have been higher than this one, but this one I think was like the best comeback of the week. I like the art by Alessandro Esteron quite a bit, and then Andres Sorrentino is solid as always in the bits in the middle. There's 2 different artists that doesn't always work for me, but it worked in this issue, and it's playing in the Sandman universe. It is doing a solid job of it with characters that Gaiman created, and it's respecting Gaiman's creation. And how do I say this? Like, I don't want to spoil this story because I think it's an interesting enough story, but like you probably won't get all of it if you don't read at least the like Dream Country and not Dream Country. I can't remember the name of what they call the collected volume of Sandman. You might still be a little bit lost because not everything gets very well explained in here. But if you're familiar with these characters and you're familiar with that universe, I think you'll really dig it. And it is my favorite book of the week. The art was great. The story's very solid in this one. We'll see how it goes. Tynion has been a heartbreak for me lately. And it's hit or miss, and sometimes bad, sometimes good, sometimes indifferent. But this is the good. I like this. So that's what I have. It's not a huge week for me. 14 books, I think 13. I know, counting is hard, people. But yeah, that's what I read. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if I should have picked up more stuff. Let me know if you really hate everything I'm talking about, and you're like, God damn it, Taylor, that book is great, or that was stupid, or whatever. Start a dialogue in the comments down below. We can chat. And yeah, hit the like button, hit the notification bell if you want to know when these drop. Although I do try to drop these at 8:30 Central Time every Wednesday. And please subscribe. I'm working to get to 1,000. I'm trying. It's going to be a while, but whatever. Yeah, but hit the subscribe bell and hit the notification and all that. It helps the algorithm, people. Helps the algorithm. And then I can keep spending all my money on books and reading them to you. Not reading them to you. Talking about them. That's it. Words are hard. I have failed at many words this week. And this video has some of those in it. All right. Don't be a dick, even if you really could use a thesaurus for a dictionary, encyclopedia, and like if you run out of words, just don't be a dick. See ya.